Hello, Harvey, you there? Harvey, good morning.
My phone number is 718.
Yesterday, hope everything is okay.
4313.
What?
1005.
Everything all right? Okay, good to see you there. Okay,
I mean, the fact that I have an appointment today at 8 o'clock.
okay. Steve, you on yet?
I'll make sure that's still on. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Hi, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to.
Got a couple more minutes before we get underway.
Nice to see you back, Ken.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lower that cap, lower the screen down a drop.
What?
Lower your, there we go. Good.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wait, share the table.
Good. All right.
Always my pleasure.
All right. Okay, we are going to start in a moment with the learning sponsors, and then we'll pick up the DAF. I have with me, if anyone needs the DAF calendar, I have copies with me in my bag. So let me know and I have plenty. Not only did I send them, when I received it, I sent them a donation and asked them to send me additional ones. So of course, they sent not only additional ones, but additional envelopes for donations as well. But then they sent me a whole bunch as well. Okay, so so I have plenty of the calendars. Okay, so anyone who needs or would like one, okay, let me know. Okay. What? Where I got them here with me here. All right. Michael, if you want, my bag is on the chair. Inside the bag. Thank you, Mandy. All right. And we'll get momentarily.
People thinking about getting the next tomorrow.
All right, so like I said, I've got plenty of calendars. All right. Okay. Now, let's take a quick, speaking of the calendar, Michael reminded me appropriately that as of November 14th, we will be starting Gemara Tanis. Okay, so that so therefore I look to my Siyum subcommittee. Okay, all right.
What day is that?
That happens to be a Sunday. The Tani starts Sunday, the 14th of November.
That's the Maseches Tanis.
Maseches. Right, it's not a Tanis, right? Thank you.
You could have a horrible dream tonight.
All right, oh, please. All right, anyway, so let's start giving some thought to what we want to do for a Siyum for them. Okay? All right. And for those that are in the rushing the holiday season, they could even put out Sufganiyot at that time. All right. Okay, let's start with our sponsors and then we will start the Gemara itself. Okay. Year of Learning by Sue and Arnie Gerlich in memory of Malcolm Perlman and Philip Mann, and Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Meir ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, and Yerivka Pro Rosna bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch in the memory of family murdered in the Holocaust. Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Yaakov ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Marsha Federbush and family in memory of her husband, Dr. Oriel Paul Federbush, Oriel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends in memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, Elbas Yaakov, Leslie and Gail Kaplan, in memory of their parents, Harry and Marjorie Sedell, Irving and Pearl Kaplan, friends of Avi Gitler, Avrameya ben Shimon, and Martha Gitler Charna Bad Yeshaya, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova Bad Yisrael Dov in her memory, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein, and Sam Levine in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Have a month of learning by Phyllis and Chaim Reese in memory of her mother, Malka Bat Ze'ev, by Sam and Shifra Coleman in memory of his mother, Sarah Rav Avraham, Charlie Gelfenstein in memory of his mother, Dacia Gilbas Meir Halevi, the Boca Babes in memory of their dear friend Susan Wertman, by Sarah Bat Alta Yosef, Chaim and Phyllis Reese again in memory of his father, Mordechai ben Yom Tov Lipa. A week of learning by Clara and Jonas Wazer, in memory of her mother, Chana Bas Getzel. Today, the 2nd of November, we have a day of learning by Roseanne Barr, in memory of her father, David Simcha ben Moshe Ahron. Hashem is having Aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshua Shem Atzliah, and the Chol B'nai Israel, a good Gaben Shkia. Okay? So, as we
Amen.
So we finished up yesterday on the top of Kuf Daled Amud Aleph, okay, where we were talking about the concave shape of the moon and the concave shape of the rainbow, okay, and particularly the issue was that it was concerned that the sun worshippers were concerned that it would appear like they would be shooting arrows at them, okay, if the rainbow was in the opposite direction. Okay, so that's what, and so the Mishnah, we're going to start with another piece from the Mishnah. Kama ya gavoa ula'an haya noteh. Okay, how high up was the moon, and in what direction did it lean? Okay, so as we continue, again, remember these are reviewing the questions that were asked, the Edim, okay, Edei Re'iyah, okay, which was supposed to be the most important, or according to some, the criteria by which you could declare the new month Mekudash. Okay, so picking up then, says the Gemara, Tana Chada L'Tzafona. If someone taught it was to the north, Devar Rav Kaimi, then his testimony, his words were valid. Lidroma, if it was to the south, Lo Amar Klum. It's as if he said nothing. Vahatanya Ipcha. But don't we have a Braita that teaches the exact opposite? Okay. Lidaroma, if the moon was seen in the south, Dvarav Kaimin, his words were valid. Litzafona, to the north, Lo Amar Klum. Okay. It's as if he said nothing. Lo kasha, not necessarily problematic. Okay, no real contradiction, it would appear. Kan biyamot hachama. In one case, we're talking about the days of the summer. Okay, and another where the moon is in the south of the sun. Okay, kan biyamot hageshamim, and the other is in the case of the north. Okay, this rainy season. Okay, in the rainy season, where the moon, it would be in the north of the sun. Tanu Rabbanan, okay, on again, Kaf Dalet, about 5 lines down, 6 lines down. Right, says the Braita, Echad Omer Gavoa Shnei mardaot. Okay, now mardaot, I didn't see what I had. The translation I had was plow handles.
Yeah, they call it a cattle prod.
Cattle prod. Okay, so in other words, the example that one of the commentaries I saw suggested, let's assume that you're talking in our day, we would talk about height in terms of stories of a building. Something is 2 stories high, 3 stories high, things like that. So the question would be, if, as we're going to see in a moment, what happens if the testimony of the 2 witnesses, okay, is not exactly the very same statement? To what degree do you say it's, so to speak, close enough? Right? So if they say it's 2 stories high, ve'echad omer shalosh, and the other one says it's 3 cattle prods or 3 plow handles high, okay, what happens? Edutan kayemet. Their testimony is considered valid, right? Echad omer shalosh, ve'echad omer chamisha. But if one says it's 3 cattle prods or stories or 3 plow handles high, and the other says it's 5, okay, edutan batela, then their testimony is considered inappropriate, null and void. Aval, okay, but, okay, we don't, so to speak, kick out the witness, okay, from that pair, okay, and say, well, if in that case, he's no longer acceptable whatsoever, says the Gemara. Why? Mitztarfin le'edut acheret, because it's possible that his testimony might be identified and connected with somebody else. Right? Either one. Okay. All right. Tanu Rabbanan, says the new Braita. Okay, and this is a little more complicated. Ra'inhu b'mayim, we saw the moon as reflected in water. Okay, let's say Ra'inhu ba'ash hashit, we saw the moon reflected in a glass lantern. Translation I. Ra'inhu ba'avim, we saw the moon reflected right through the clouds somehow. Okay, ein ma'idin alav, one should not be giving testimony in that context, right? Now, furthermore, chetzio b'mayim, half the moon was seen in the water. Chetzio ba'avim, half the moon was seen through the clouds. Chetzio ba'ashishit, okay, half of it was seen in the glass lantern. By the way, just stylistically, surprising, notice that the Gemara changes the order of the items here. Okay, right? That I didn't find any comment on that, but it could be that somebody might respond. Ein me'idin alav, here too, one doesn't give testimony in that situation. Hashta kulu, okay, here you said all. Amart lo, you said no, one doesn't give testimony. Chetzio mibai, was it necessary then to say an example of if half the moon was seen? If you've already said the entire moon, okay, was in those questionable situations and you can't testify, why did we have to say, right, in a half situation, right? Ela hachikama, but this is what it means to tell us. Chetzio b'mayim, chetzio b'rakia. Half of it was seen through the water, and half of it was seen off the water, reflecting from water, and half in the sky. Chetzio ba'avim, chetzio b'rakia. Half of it was seen clearly in the sky, and half of it was only seen through clouds. Chetzio ba'ashishi, chetzio b'rakia. Again, half and half. What happens? Ein me'idin. Then we still say, in that situation, one doesn't bring testimony. Tanu Rabbanan. A lantern, okay? Okay, through glass. Okay. We could have said today, right? Could have said you saw it by means of a mirror, is what we would have, okay, in a more contemporary situation, right? Okay. All right, so what happens? A new Braita. Ra'inhu v'shuv lo ra'in. We saw it, they claim, and then later we didn't see it. Okay? Now, we could imagine very quickly a situation where they saw it, then maybe a cloud came and they didn't see it. Okay? But the Gemara is going to suggest a slightly different scenario with the following. Ein mi'idinam. We say they can't testify in that situation. Kol hachi chazula va'azloi. All of this, they may have seen it and then they went. In other words, what is this trying to tell us here? Amar Abaye, and Abaye says hachi kama. This is what they mean to explain. Ra'inhu me'aleinu. We saw it, and I'm going to translate it on our own. In other words, simply by chance.
Lance.
Okay, right? What happens? Vishavnu lirotomi da'ato. And then afterwards, we went back and looked at it with intent. In other words, we clearly looked for it. Okay? Velo ra'inuhu. And then we didn't see it. Ein me'idin alav. Therefore, we cannot bring, one doesn't give testimony on it. My tama, what's the reasoning? Amor, let us say, kuvita de'iva ba'alma hu dechaz. Okay? Because it's possible that I might say that what they saw was really a small white cloud or something like that. Okay, that's what they saw. Okay, and it really wasn't the moon. Okay, finishing that, we go now to a new Mishnah. Okay, our new Mishnah wants to clarify again. And as we get through this Mishnah and to continue, okay, I'll hold off on that. Okay, Rosh Beit Din, Omer Mikudash. Okay, let's assume we've got acceptable testimony. The head of the court says we said it has to be seen in order to declare it sanctified. We now declare it sanctified. And those in assembly, we call ha'am onim acharav mikudash mikudash. And then the others gathered there, okay, say, yes, it's sanctified, indeed it's sanctified. Bein shenireh bismano, bein shelo nireh bismano. Regardless of whether it was seen at its appropriate time or whether it was not seen at its appropriate time, mikadshin oto, we sanctify it. Okay? Now, our question is going to be, what does it mean that nireh shelo bismano? Okay? Right? Let's see. Rabbi Eliezer b'Rabbi Tzadok Omer, im lo nireh bismano, if they don't see it at its appropriate time, ein mekadshin oto, we do not need to sanctify it. Shekvar kitchuhu shamayim. Why? Because he's saying that it's as if it's already existed, sanctified, because heaven made it there. Right? Even if people didn't see it per se and testify, it's there. Okay? Gemara. Rosh Beit Din v'chulei. What about the Rosh Beit Din? Minahani mili. How do we know that he's the one who's supposed to initially declare it? Right? Amar Rabbi Chia bar Gamda. He says as follows: Amar Rabbi Yossi ben Shaul. Amar Rabbi, and all in the name of Rabbi. Amar Kra. We have a pasuk that says Vaydaber Moshe et Moadei Hashem. Okay, this pasuk, the fact that it's Moshe, okay, referring to the holidays, Mikan Sherosh Beit Din Omer Mikudash. Okay, implying that following the model of Moshe, okay, the Rosh Beit Din is the one who says sanctify. V'chola amonim acharav mikudash mikudash. What about the people's response? And why do they say it twice? Right? Minalan, on what is that based? Amar Rav Papa, Amar Kra. According to Rav Papa, the following pasuk: Asher tikra'u otam, when you call them, okay, or they've called by you, right? Kare ve atem. So he does a little play on the word, right? Tikru otam atem. that you are the ones who call it. Okay? Now, Rabbi Nachman Bar Yitzchak Amar, a different pasuk. Ela Haim Moadai. Haim Yomru Moadai. Again, the fact that, again, that the population must also declare it, right? Mekudash, Mekudash. Trezimne Lamali. Why do they have to say it twice? Dichtiv, why? Says the pasuk, Mikra'e Kodesh. So in other words, if it had simply been written Mikra Kodesh, it would have been, the implication would have been one time, exactly. But since it's plural, Mikra'e, that tells us they have to declare it. Also, always plural, a minimum of two. Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Tzadok Omer, Im lo nir'eh bizmano, ein mekadshin-oto. So here now we get to the crux of this issue, right? Tanya says the following Braita. Flimo Omer. Okay, Flimo was a Talmid of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. Okay, he's quoted a number of places in the Gemara. And if anyone is more interested in that unique name, the Art Scroll, by the way, and I think we have it here in Shul, had put out a volume, an excellent volume on the introduction to the Gemara.
I have it.
Okay, I have one too. And it indicates a whole mini biography on quite a number of the Tanaim and Amoraim. Excellent, excellent text. Okay. Anyway, but this is the first time in a while. Okay. So what happens? What did he say? Bismano ein mekadshin-oto. If it came out at its appropriate time and it was visible, you don't have to declare it. Shelo bismano, it's when it didn't come out at its appropriate time, right? On the 31st, mekadshin-oto. That's when they need to sanctify it, consecrate it. Rabbi Eliezer b'Rebbi Shimon Omer, bein kach uvein kach, ein mekadshin-oto. Regardless, he says, you don't have to go through a formal act of consecration, sanctification. Why? It says in the pasuk, "V'kidashtem et shnat hachamishim," that you shall sanctify the 50th year. Shanim ata mekadesh. Years you have to declare consecrated, sanctified. Ve'i ata mekadesh chodashim. But you don't have to sanctify months. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, he says, Halacha Rabbi Eliezer b'Rabbi Tzadok. He claims the laws like Rabbi Eliezer b'Rabbi Tzadok. Amar Abai, Af Ananami Tanina. So we also learn. Ra'uhu Beit Din B'chol Yisrael. Okay, if the Beis Din and the whole nation saw it was visible. Nechkaru Ehadein V'lo Hispiku Lomar Mikudash. Okay, and after they've interviewed all of the witnesses, they did not have sufficient time, right, to declare it sanctified before dark. Harei zeh me'ubar. We therefore then considered that month to be full, all right, completed. We add the extra day, it says. Me'ubar and Mekudash lo, you're saying we would consider that month full, but not sanctified? Me'ubar itztarichale. It's necessary to be considered full. Sakata atkam. Why might I have thought that? Amina, I might have said, Ho'il v'ra'uhu beit din v'chol Yisrael, iparsima. Okay, since the Beis Din and all the people saw it, it's public knowledge, right? V'lo le'avruha, and one shouldn't need to make it a full month. Kamash Malan comes to teach us that's not the case. Okay, new Mishnah, right? Udmut Surot. I like this Mishnah. All right, Udmut Surot. Okay, we're going to get into a little astronomy in this lesson. No? Art class? Okay, all right. In any case, Dmut Tzurot Levana Hayulo LeRabban Gamliel B'Tavla. Okay, Rabban Gamliel had a chart, a tablet, however we want to define Tavla. And what was on this chart? What was on this? Okay, the pictures of the moon, right? Ubakotel, and it was hanging on the wall in his apartment, right? Ba'aliato, right? Up in the attic there. Shebahen ma'at ha'edyotot. Okay, that here he could show, all right, common people. Va'omer hakazera ita, ikazeh. Did it look like this? Did it look like that? Okay, all of the various forms of the moon, all right? Gemara says, Umishari, is that really permitted that he should have physical representations of the various forms of the moon? Vahaktiv, and isn't it written, Lo ta'asun oti, that you shall not make iti, you should not make along with me. Lo ta'asun kidmot shimshai, okay, or shamashai. You shall not make the forms of those who serve me, my servants. Sun and the moon were considered servants of Hashem. Amar Abai, lo asra Torah, ela shamashim she'afshar la'asot k'mota. According to Abai, one didn't forbid, the making of these forms. All right. What was it? Right, that the forms, right? Elish Shemashin, all right, Shamashin, but unless they were Hashem's servants, She'afshar la'asot k'motam, that it's possible actually to make something like them.
In other words, a very accurate reflection.
That could be.
Like a photographic.
It could be, or the physical form.
Or circular.
Right?
Like
Physical form, right? Keditanya, as taught, lo yase adam bayit, tavnit, hechal, achsadra, that one should not make a certain form for a house, or a hall, or a or a portico, or things like that, right? Tavnit, why? Because the tavnit is similar to the ulam, right? To part of the Beis Hamikdash. Chatzer keneged azara, that's similar to the courtyard. Shulchan keneged shulchan, a table, right? Because it's like the table for inside the right Beis Hamikdash. Menorah keneged menorah, right? Okay, so the candelabra, like the candelabra. And as I read this, I will tell you, I kept thinking back a number of times I've been to Yerushalayim, most recently. Okay, and you see this huge model of a menorah, okay, in one of the major courtyards.
Well, the Israeli government took the menorah from the arch.
Right, but they claim, the yeshiva that makes all these things claim, well, we're getting it ready, okay? Right. Aval, it says, let's go on as we continue. Oseh shel chamisha v'shel shisha v'shel shmona. But it's permissible if you're making a model of a menorah to make it 5 branches, 6 branches, 8 branches, like they have in shoals. Right. Okay. All right. Shel shiva lo ya'aseh. But 7 you shouldn't make it. Afilu shel sha'ar minei matachot, and even if it's made from other kinds of metals. Now we get into a little lesson in metallurgy, okay? Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, af shel eitz lo yaseh, kederech she'asu malchei beit chashmonai. Even making it out of wood is not appropriate, says Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, as was done by the Hasmonean kings. Why? Because the Masorah was that they first made it out of wood and then simply covered it over, right? Plated it. And that's what we're going to see. Amrulo, they said to him, Misham Raya, you're using that as a source. Shipudim shel barzel hayu. What did they use? They really used poles, frames, right? Made out of iron, right? Vaychipum b'ba'atz. And they covered these with tin. Okay? Ha'eshiru, when they became more wealthy, asa'um shel kesef, then they made it out of silver.
They covered it with silver.
Right. Chazru ha'eshiru, and then when they became further wealthy, asa'um shel zahav, then they covered it with gold. Okay. Now, so what about back to our question about the moon? Isn't the moon considered one of the shamash, one of the servants, right? V'shamashim she'if sharla asot kmotan mishari. Right, so these servants of Hashem, okay, are they that were saying that it should not be made? Vahatanya. We taught elsewhere in a Braita. Lo ta'asun iti. Again, spelling out the same pasuk. You shouldn't make it along with me. Lo ta'asun kidmut shamashai hamishamshim lefanai b'marom. That you cannot make these an image of these servants that serve along, okay, before me in the heaven. Now again, Abai trying to give a perush. V'lo asra Torah ela demut arba'a panim bahade hadade. Okay, what is Abai's statement? What was he said? They did not forbid, according to the Torah, any image of the four faces, one of the other. The four faces refer to the first chapter in Ezekiel, where it has, right, the face of a person, a face of a lion, a face of two other animals, okay, that these were considered, okay, divine sort of beings that carried the Merkava, the chariot, divine chariot. Okay? Ela me'ata partsufa dam lechude tishtare. If that's the case, then the face of a person alone ought to be permitted. Al-lama, Tanya. On the other hand, we learned it was taught in the Braita, kol hapartsufot mutarim. All faces seem to be permitted, chutz mi partsuf adam, with the exception of the face of a human being. Okay? If I remember correctly, way back when, My Name is Asher Lev, I think was the name of the novel, okay, written by Chaim Potar, and it discusses this whole issue of
The first printed Haggadah
yeah,
had
the
illustrated.
bird's head Haggadah.
The bird head.
The
with
bird head,
birds'
yeah,
heads.
bird head Haggadah.
So Moshe and Aaron, the birds' heads are standing in front of Paro with a bird's head.
Right, yeah, good point, thank you. Amar Rav Huna Berei the Rav Idi, he says, Mi Parke, the Abaye. So Rav Huna is saying, in the son of Rabbi Idi, from the lesson that Abaye just said, Shamay Ali, I've learned, Lo ta'asun iti, that when it says you should not make along with me, Lo ta'asun oti, you should not make me. Ushar shamashin mishari. In other words, implying that you can't make a image of the divine. Okay, so does that mean the other servants are permitted? Vahatanya, but haven't we been taught in the Braita? Lo ta'asun iti, lo ta'asun kidmut shamashai, hamishamshin lefanai b'marom. That when it says you should not make along with me, you should not make, right, anything that serves before me from heaven, in heaven. Kagon, like, right, the following, Ofanim, Usrafim, V'chayot HaKodesh, Umalachei Hashari. Right? So Why do I point this out? All right, because who is it? What is it referring to? Different kinds of angels. Okay, now we're all familiar with the fact, I'm sure, and then I'll continue, that in medieval art, okay, there are many, many pictures that include pictures, artwork of angels. Okay, one of them they call CHERUB in English, a cherub, right? Where does the word cherub come from? Crew. Okay.
And Shlomo made 12 statues of angels in the Beis Hamikdash.
Right. However, notice that in this list, kruvim are not included. Right? Ofanim, Srafim, Chayot HaKodesh, Malachei HaShalei. So kruvim specifically seem to be omitted here. And maybe that's why it's interesting that in medieval art, they always did the picture of kruvim as small infants with wings. Okay, that's right. Okay, that's just a little value.
Aramaic translation, Kruvia is a small child.
That's where they got it from. That's where the church probably did. Amar Abai says Abai lo asra Torah ela shamashin shebamador ha'elyon. So Abai says, hold on, we're only talking about those servants of Hashem, those items that served him that existed in the higher realm, the upper heavens. Okay, this is now clearly a lesson in astronomy, because what we're going to see in a moment, V'shebamador hatachton mishare, but in the lower heavens, is it permitted? Implying that the sages already knew that there were multiple levels of not just that, stratosphere, atmosphere, etc., etc. Okay, all right. Vahatanya, but aren't we learning as follows in a Braita? Asher b'shamayim. Okay, whatever is in the heavens. The Rabbot, Chama, Ulevana, Kochavim, Umazalot. Okay, this would include then the sun, the moon, the stars, and I'm going to translate Mazalot here as constellations. Okay, all right. Mima'al, above, the Rabbot Malachei Hashari. And that would then include above the divine, the heavenly.
So you can't make a picture of the moon.
Right, that would seem to be the case. Kitanya hahi la'avdam. But the Gemara says, when that was taught, that was to refer to worshiping them. La'avdam, if you're saying it's to worship them, afilu shilshul katanami, then that's the case. You should not even be permitted to make a picture of even the smallest worm. Right? And it says the katanami, ein hachinami, and indeed that's the case, says the Gemara. Why? Titania, it's taught in the Braita, asher ba'aretz, that which is on the land. The Rabbot, harim, ugvaot, yamim, unaharot, afikim, vagayot. Okay, and here that includes then hills, mountains, seas, rivers, streams, etc., etc., etc. Right? Mitachat, below, the Rabbot shilshul katan, and that should include then even a small word. Va'asiya, gradata, mishari, and making them by himself, is that permitted? V'hatanya lo ta'asun iti, and that, but then we say you should make it along with me. Lo ta'asun kidmut shamashai, hamashamshin lefanai, kigon chama ulevana kochavim umazalot. But therefore the Braita says, clarifying the statement, you should not make an image, okay, of those that serve me, those that serve like the sun, the moon, the stars, etc., constellations. Now, so how then could, be back to our issue, how then could Rabban Gamliel have in his apartment attic these pictures, these images of the moon. Okay? So now we come back. Shani Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel is different. Why? The Acherim Asulo. Because others made it for him. He did not make it. Right? Gentiles perhaps made it for him. Vaha, Rav Yehuda, the Acherim Asulo. And here, if Rav Yehuda says that others made it for him, Va'amar le Shmuel le Rav Yehuda, and Shmuel responds to Rav Yehuda, Shinana, smart guy, okay, wise guy, okay, Same Einei Dideim, okay, what is he trying to say to him? Okay, trying to think of the best way to, I don't want to say, what? Yeah, okay.
Take on a side.
Oh, okay, we're gonna get to the ring, we're gonna get it, okay? So, Same Einei Didan, okay, I wanted it more pointed out as, what?
Blind aside.
Sharp-witted.
Okay, well, that's Shinana. It's like,
Some ain't means.
well, yeah, no, you're right. But I want to phrase it just, okay? Yeah. What, it's like almost, what do your eyes see? Don't you see what's going on here? So, in that kind of a phraseon. Hatam, okay, when we're talking about the form of these things. Chatam chotmo, okay, let's take an example. He says, take a signet ring. And I've got a sort of a signet ring here, okay? And the G in the ring protrudes up, okay? Right? So what happens? Chatam chotmo boleit hava, if the signet aspect of the ring protrudes, umishum chishta, okay, and one is concerned about making images, suspects concern about image, keditanya, as taught, tabat chotmo boleit, if you have a signet ring where the symbol sticks out, so to speak, asur lahanicha umutar lachtomba. Okay, it's prohibited to put it in a certain way, but it is what?
Where?
Okay. Okay, umutar lachtoma, but it is permitted to sign with it.
But not as a touch.
Okay, not as a takshin, right? Okay, in other words, you could take it, and which was how they would sign, and they would put it into the wax, okay, and it would make, the question is, it would make a depression in the wax, all right? Asur mutar lachtoma, chotmo shokea mutar, if the symbol on the signet ring was indented, okay, what happens? Mutar lahanicha, it's permitted to then wear it on a normal basis, right? Va'asur lachtomba, but there it's forbidden to sign it because it's going to stick up, right? Umichai shinan lechashta, asks the Gemara, are we really concerned for such suspicions? Vahahahu beiknishta dishaf viyativ b'nahadeh. But don't we have a situation where there was a synagogue, right? And what happened to it? It was the stones and everything of that synagogue was then moved and relocated and reestablished in Nahardea. Okay. Dahava Bay Andarta. And in that synagogue, there was a statue. Vahavu Aile Rav Ushmuel, Va'avuha Shmuel, and Rav and Shmuel and the father of Shmuel, Valevi, and he also, the four of them, four major chachamim umatzlu hatam. And they went to that synagogue and they prayed there. So how could you say that some kind of a right thing was permitted? V'lo chai she'eh lechashta. And there was no concern, no suspicion of right anything. The answer is Rabim Shani, where they're plural, where the community as a whole goes there, it's different, right? Vaha Rabban Gamliel Yachidu. But on the other hand, Rabban Gamliel is an individual. So if you said it's okay if you have these images in a public situation, what about a private situation? Kevan de Nasihu, since he was the Nasi, Shchiche Rabim Gabe, there were many people often around him, right? Ibayat Ema. So the following then I would ask, the Prakim have, okay? Maybe these were pieces of images. I had this example of a puzzle, you know, what do you call it? Jigsaw puzzle. Thank you. Right, a jigsaw puzzle. V'ibayat ema lehitla made avad. And others want to say perhaps it was done for him to learn about it. Right? That was why it was done. Uktiv, and that was written, lo tilamed la'asot. You shouldn't learn to make it. Aval ata lomed lahavin ulaharot. But it is permitted to understand it and to teach about it. Okay, so that's where we're going to stop today. We'll pick up tomorrow with this new Mishnah because it is not only a long Mishnah, okay, but the story is worth a little more time. All right, everybody, have a good day. And
Have a great day. All the best.
some of the shiurim start this week. Wednesday is Marty Levine's shiur, and Thursday is Malcolm Morris's shiur on early Achronim. And Wednesday night, Rabbi Moshe Wakalovsky, yeah, is going to start a shiur on pearls, Hasidic pearls of the parsha.
I have your side, your office, which is when the CM for time for the day before.
You have your side,
Your hour.
yeah.
So if they make it on Monday, I would like to say this is the hot one.
Oh, sure. Okay, great.
And even if you make it on Sunday, make it later, you know, what I mean. Okay, because that's when I have your day from my mother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I have your side on the shop.
So
Oh, no, I'm this, I have your side.
you know, however however,
That's great.
just keep that in mind.
You do. Okay. Oh, I didn't bring my pen with me. All right. Okay, great. All right, everybody, take care.
I'll be looking at the, I just want to give you one.